Days passed aboard the flagship, and Ethan slowly regained his full strength. The alien medics had been amazed at his resilience, noting that his body healed faster than expected. Yet his recovery was not just physical. Every day he learned more about the alien world, its people, and the delicate balance that held their society together. He discovered that their technology, while advanced, was tightly controlled by traditions and hierarchy. The Queen ruled not only with power, but with deep respect for her people's customs. Ethan trained alongside alien warriors, learning their combat techniques. Their movements were elegant, precise, almost like a dance. Yet he quickly realized that his human instincts added something different. He could think outside their methods, improvising when situations turned dangerous. In a sparring match, he noticed a small flaw in the warrior's formation and demonstrated a counter-strategy. The instructor paused, clearly impressed, and muttered something that Ethan couldn't fully understand, but interpreted as approval. Princess Liara watched these sessions closely. She noticed how the warrior's respect for Ethan grew with each display of skill. He wasn't just strong. He was clever, adaptable, and fearless. The princess admired him, not only for the bravery he had shown on the battlefield, but for the humility with which he carried himself. Even when praised, Ethan never boasted. He simply focused on learning and protecting. The Queen had not yet met him directly again, but she observed him through the strategic monitors. His actions, his interactions with the soldiers, and his unwavering loyalty to her daughter intrigued her. Humans were unpredictable. Some were reckless, some cowardly, but Ethan was neither. He possessed a combination of courage, intelligence, and integrity that the Queen could not ignore. She decided that he would be summoned soon to discuss matters of greater importance. One morning, Ethan was called to a council chamber. The room was vast, circular, and lined with holographic displays that projected maps of Virelia and its neighboring systems. Alien generals and advisors were already present, their expressions serious. Liara accompanied him, walking silently by his side. She had grown more comfortable around him, and he with her. Words were not always necessary. Trust was built through shared experience. The Queen entered, her presence commanding the room to silence. She approached Ethan, her eyes locked on his, analyzing every movement. "You have adapted quickly," she said, her voice firm but not unkind. "You are no ordinary human. Your actions have saved lives, and your methods are effective." Ethan inclined his head respectfully. "Thank you, Your Majesty. I only do what is necessary to protect those in danger." The Queen regarded him thoughtfully. "Your bravery is unquestionable, but you are also clever. That combination is rare, even among my people. Tell me, human, do you understand why my daughter's survival is so crucial?" Ethan considered his words carefully. "I think so. You said her life affects your people, the kingdom, and the war?" "Yes," the Queen replied. "Liara is not only a princess. She is a symbol of hope and stability. If she falls, the morale of my people falters. The enemy gains strength. Her safety is tied to the survival of many." Ethan nodded. "Then I understand why protecting her matters. I will do my best." The Queen studied him in silence, and then she surprised him. "I will not release you from this duty, not because I seek to punish, but because I see your value. You are to remain with us, not as a prisoner, but as the protector of the princess. Your loyalty and courage cannot be replaced." Ethan felt a mixture of surprise and unease. I didn't come here to be trapped. I came to help. I want to return to my people." Liara placed a gentle hand on his arm. "It's not captivity," she said softly. "The Queen is keeping you here because you have already risked everything for me. She trusts you. I trust you, and I don't want to see you in danger again unnecessarily." Ethan looked at her, understanding dawning. He realized that this was not punishment, it was honor. He had been recognized not just for what he did on the battlefield, but for the person he was. He would remain aboard the flagship, yes, but he would also have the freedom to act, to protect, and to learn. In the following weeks, Ethan's role aboard the flagship became clearer. He accompanied Liara in strategic planning, assisted in training warriors, and occasionally led small missions to secure outlying regions of the planet. Each time, his human perspective brought new solutions to old problems. He suggested maneuvers that combined alien technology with human tactics, and each time, his ideas succeeded. The alien soldiers began to treat him differently. At first, they had viewed him as fragile, limited by his human nature. Now they respected him. They sought his counsel, followed his lead, and even emulated some of his methods. Ethan felt a strange pride, not for himself but for the impact he was having. Humanity, in some small way, was proving its worth among the stars. Liara spent more time with him during this period, not just for training but in quiet moments of conversation. She asked about Earth, about his childhood, his family, and the way humans lived. Ethan shared as much as he could in simple terms, careful not to overwhelm her with too much information. She was fascinated, often leaning closer to hear his words, her eyes reflecting genuine curiosity. One evening, the Queen summoned Ethan again. This time, she spoke without her usual advisors present. "You are more than a warrior," she said, walking slowly around him. "You are observant, loyal, and intelligent. You understand strategy, not just combat. I see potential in you that could serve my people in ways beyond the battlefield." Ethan listened carefully, unsure of what she meant. I will serve as I can, Your Majesty," he said. The Queen stopped in front of him, her eyes meeting his. "I am not just offering orders. I am offering trust. You have proven yourself, and I believe you can do more than simply follow commands. You may influence decisions, assist in planning, and protect the princess in ways that require more than physical strength. Are you capable of this?" Ethan considered her words. It was unusual for a human to be trusted with such responsibility among aliens, but he had learned that courage alone was not enough. Wisdom, judgment, and integrity mattered as well. "I will do my best," he said firmly. The Queen nodded. "Then I accept your service. Know this, failing the princess is not an option, but neither is failing yourself. You must act with honor, bravery, and clarity of thought. If you do, you will not only protect her, you will earn a place among my people." Ethan left the chamber with a sense of purpose he had not felt since arriving on Varelia. He realized that his role was no longer temporary. He had become a part of something larger than himself. The princess was safe, yes, but he was also part of a larger mission, to help shape the future of a people and a planet. As he returned to his quarters, Liara met him halfway. "You handled that well," she said. "The Queen sees what I have always seen. You are more than a soldier. You are remarkable." Ethan smiled faintly, feeling the weight of her words. "I am still just human," he said. "I make mistakes, perhaps," she said softly. "But even so, you act with courage and integrity. That is rare. That is why the Queen and I trust you." Days turned into weeks. Ethan continued to train, plan, and assist in missions. The bond between him and Liara grew stronger, built on trust, respect, and shared experience. He learned the nuances of alien culture, their codes of honor, and the complex relationships that guided their society. In turn, the aliens learned about humans, not just their physical strength, but their creativity, loyalty, and resilience. During one mission to secure a remote outpost, Ethan's leadership was put to the test. A small enemy squad ambushed the outpost, catching the alien defenders off guard. Ethan quickly assessed the situation, directing soldiers to advantageous positions while using his human instincts to predict the enemy's movements. With careful coordination, they repelled the attackers, suffering minimal losses. When the mission ended, the alien commander approached him. "Your decision saved lives today," he said. "Your kind is truly exceptional." Ethan nodded. "I only do what I must." Liara, observing from a distance, felt a surge of pride. She realized that humans, underestimated by many, could be a force for hope and change. Ethan was living proof of that. Back on the flagship, the Queen observed the reports of the mission. She noted not just the victory, but the humans' role in it. Ethan's actions were changing perceptions of humanity across her people. He was more than a protector. He was a symbol, a bridge between worlds, and perhaps a key to peace in a galaxy that had known too much conflict. One night, as the ship glided through the amber skies of Varelia, Ethan stood beside Liara on the observation deck. The stars stretched endlessly above, and he felt a quiet sense of wonder. He had come to this planet as a soldier, a visitor in a strange world. Now he was something more. A protector, a trusted advisor, and someone who had earned respect across species. Liara stood close, her eyes reflecting the lights of distant planets. "You have changed so much," she said softly. "Not just in skill, but in heart. I am grateful for you, Ethan." Ethan looked at her, humbled by her words. "I am the one who should be grateful. You trusted me when no one else could." You showed me that bravery is not just about strength. It is about choosing to do what is right no matter the cost. Ethan woke slowly, the gentle hum of the flagship filling his ears. He felt sore, every muscle protesting as though he had run for days without rest. A soft light illuminated the room, revealing the advanced medical equipment surrounding him. Alien devices hovered over his body, scanning, healing, and monitoring his condition. He tried to move but realized the devices were carefully restraining him, not to imprison, but to ensure he did not injure himself further. He turned his head and saw her. Princess Liara sat beside him in a chair that seemed to adjust to her form automatically. Her eyes, wide and curious, reflected relief the moment she noticed him stirring. "You're awake," she whispered. "I was worried." Ethan tried to speak, but his throat was dry. Liara immediately handed him a small device that dispensed a warm, nutrient-rich liquid. He sipped slowly, grateful for the taste and the comfort. "Where am I?" he managed to ask. "You're on my mother's flagship," Liara said. "You're safe. The battle is over thanks to you." Ethan blinked. Safe. It felt strange to hear those words after what he had endured. I only did what anyone would," he said, though even he knew the truth. He had risked his life in a way that very few humans would have. Liara studied him with intensity, as if trying to understand him completely in that moment. "You're kind," she began softly. "You are brave in ways I never expected. Not just strong, but different." Ethan shrugged weakly. "We fight for each other, for what's right, even if it's not our world." She nodded, and for a moment there was silence. The room was quiet except for the soft mechanical hum and the distant murmur of activity on the flagship. Despite the alien technology surrounding him, Ethan felt a strange sense of calm. For the first time since arriving on Virelia, he allowed himself to simply breathe. Minutes later, an alien healer entered the room. Their form was elegant, humanoid but taller than Ethan, with skin that shimmered slightly under the lights. They observed him carefully, scanning with devices that displayed complex data only the aliens could understand. Ethan attempted a nod, a small gesture of acknowledgement. The healer responded with a subtle movement, almost like a bow. "This human," the healer said to Liara, their voice melodic and measured, "has survived injuries that would normally be fatal. His resilience is remarkable. We must monitor him carefully." Liara's eyes softened. "He saved me," she said simply. "I cannot let him leave yet. He needs time to recover." Ethan, still weak, tried to sit up straighter. "I don't mean to trouble you," he said, voice hoarse. "I just want to get back to my team." "You've done enough for your team," Liara replied gently. "Right now your duty is to yourself to recover. The Queen insists you remain under her protection." Ethan frowned, confusion mixing with his fatigue. "The Queen? You mean your mother?" "Yes," Liara said. "She has heard of your actions. She wishes to meet you." Ethan's brow furrowed. Humans rarely had the luxury of being honored for bravery, especially not by alien royalty. He had expected gratitude, perhaps, but not a summons to meet the Queen herself. He leaned back, letting the devices support him. Whatever awaited him, he would face it as he had faced the battlefield, with determination. The hours passed slowly, filled with alien treatments, briefings from attendants, and quiet moments with Liara. She asked about Earth, about his family, about the life he had left behind. Ethan answered in simple terms, knowing that translation devices sometimes missed nuance. Yet he found that he could convey more than words. His honesty, his resolve, his sense of duty, all seemed to resonate even across species. By the time the Queen summoned him, Ethan had regained enough strength to stand. Liara accompanied him, her presence reassuring. The Queen's chamber was vast, with high ceilings that seemed to stretch into the ship's core. Light from the planet below filtered through transparent panels, casting patterns across the floor. The Queen herself was imposing. She stood taller than most humans, with an elegance that commanded respect. Her eyes, deep and penetrating, seemed to look straight into Ethan's soul. "You are the human who protected my daughter," the Queen said, her voice low but resonant. "Is this true?" Ethan nodded, keeping his gaze steady. "Yes, Your Majesty. I did what I had to do. She was in danger. I could not let her die." The Queen studied him for a long moment. Few humans had ever stood in her presence and spoken without fear. Yet here was one who did so calmly, even humbly. "And you survived injuries that should have killed you," she said. Tell me, human, why? Ethan took a breath, choosing his words carefully. Because it was right. Because someone had to. That's all there is to it. The Queen's eyes narrowed slightly, as if trying to decipher a puzzle. Your kind is unpredictable. You act without regard for your own safety, yet you do not seek glory. You are unusual. Ethan gave a small, weary shrug. I don't know if that's unusual. On Earth, we do what we must. For a moment, silence hung between them. Then, surprisingly, the Queen's stern expression softened just slightly. Perhaps that is why my daughter is alive today. She turned to Liara, who had remained silent, observing the exchange. Your choice in companions is interesting. Liara blushed faintly but did not speak. Ethan noticed the subtle tension in her posture. It was not fear exactly, but an unfamiliar uncertainty. You will remain aboard this ship for now, the Queen continued, not as a prisoner, but as the princess's protector. Your skills, your bravery, they are valuable. I do not allow my daughter to be placed in danger again, not while you are capable of serving as her shield. Ethan opened his mouth to protest, but Liara placed a gentle hand on his arm. It's all right, she said softly. You've already risked everything for me. You need rest, and I trust you. Ethan looked at her, surprised by the trust in her voice. It was rare to encounter someone who could trust so completely, especially someone from a species so different. He nodded slowly, realizing that for now staying aboard was not imprisonment. It was honor. And perhaps it was the beginning of something larger than himself. Days passed, each blending into the next as Ethan trained, recovered, and learned. The alien warriors were initially skeptical of him, their culture filled with pride in their own strength and traditions, but he began to prove himself not just in physical combat, but in strategy, quick thinking, and adaptability. Where their methods relied on tradition, he introduced ideas that combined human ingenuity with alien technology. One afternoon, during a training exercise, Ethan demonstrated a maneuver that allowed a small group to outflank a simulated enemy squad. The aliens were astonished. You think differently, one warrior said. Your methods are unexpected but effective. Ethan smiled faintly, wiping sweat from his brow. Sometimes the obvious path isn't the best one. You have to adapt, Liara observed quietly, pride shining in her eyes. She could see how he was changing the perceptions of her people. Humans, she realized, were underestimated. They were resilient, clever, and capable of courage in the face of impossible odds. Ethan embodied all of that. Even the Queen could not hide her growing interest. She began to attend some training sessions, watching silently from the observation deck. She noticed how the alien soldiers, once proud and skeptical, began to respect him. And she noticed how he treated her daughter, with respect, humility, and unwavering loyalty. One evening, after a particularly intense day of exercises, Ethan returned to his quarters, exhausted but fulfilled. Liara was waiting for him. She had prepared a simple meal, adjusted for his human diet. They ate quietly, exchanging stories about their worlds, their histories, and their dreams. You are far from home, Liara said softly. Do you miss it? Ethan nodded. Sometimes, but this is important. What we're doing here, protecting you, helping your people. It matters, she smiled faintly. You are unlike anyone I have ever met. Your bravery, it changes how I see everything. Ethan looked at her, a flicker of surprise in his tired eyes. I'm just a human, he said. I do what I must. She reached out, lightly touching his hand. You are more than that. You are someone who changes the course of events, someone who shapes the future. Ethan felt a strange warmth at her words. It was rare to feel understood, even across species. He realized that his actions, his choices, had impact beyond the battlefield. Here, in this alien world, he was not just a soldier. He was a bridge between worlds, a symbol of courage, and perhaps a reason for hope. As he lay back to rest that night, Ethan thought about what lay ahead. The battle was won, but the war for Varelia's safety was far from over. Yet for the first time he felt a sense of belonging. He was a human, yes, but here on this alien ship he was something more. He was a protector. He was trusted. And in the eyes of Princess Liara he had earned something even more precious. Respect, gratitude, and perhaps the beginning of a bond that neither of their worlds could yet understand. The flagship approached the distant moon with silent precision. Ethan stood on the observation deck, watching the surface rise closer beneath them. Reports indicated the enemy had established a small outpost, likely a staging area for a larger invasion. The mission was clear: intercept, neutralize, and prevent them from gaining a foothold. But this was no ordinary threat. The enemy was organized, cunning, and determined. Liara joined him, her expression calm yet focused. "Are you ready?" she asked. Ethan nodded, though his heart beat faster than usual. "As ready as I'll ever be. We've faced worse and survived. This will be no different as long as we stay sharp and trust each other." She smiled faintly. "Then let's do it for the people of Virelia." The Queen had entrusted him with command of a specialized strike team composed of both elite human-trained alien soldiers and a small contingent of human advisors. They gathered in the tactical room, reviewing the plans one last time. Ethan's mind raced through contingencies, possible enemy strategies, and emergency protocols. His approach was methodical, precise yet adaptable, a combination of human ingenuity and alien discipline. "Remember," he said to the assembled team, "our goal is to disable their outpost, gather intelligence, and prevent any reinforcements from arriving. Avoid unnecessary conflict, but be ready for anything. We succeed together or fail together." The soldiers nodded, inspired by his clarity and confidence. The alien warriors had come to trust him, and the humans admired his courage. Liara placed a hand on his shoulder. "We're with you," she said simply. The descent to the moon was tense. The surface was rugged, filled with jagged rocks and hidden craters that could conceal enemy movement. Ethan led the team on foot, using the terrain to their advantage. They moved silently, communicating through hand signals and low-frequency devices that allowed them to coordinate without alerting the enemy. The outpost came into view. It was heavily guarded, with energy turrets and patrol drones scanning the perimeter. Ethan studied the layout, identifying blind spots and weak points. "We split into two groups," he whispered to Liara. "One disables the turrets. The other infiltrates the main building. Timing is crucial." Liara nodded, her eyes fierce with determination. "We'll follow your lead." The team moved into position. Ethan's group approached the turrets first. Using carefully aimed charges, they disabled the defenses without alerting the patrolling guards. The operation was silent, precise, every move calculated to minimize risk. Inside the main building, Liara and her team advanced cautiously. Ethan followed close behind, ensuring communication lines remained open. The enemy inside was prepared for a conventional attack, but they had not anticipated human tactics combined with alien efficiency. Ethan's strategies gave them an advantage that even the enemy's advanced technology could not overcome. As they reached the central command room, the enemy realized their outpost was compromised. Alarms blared and the defenders scrambled to respond. Ethan assessed the situation quickly. He directed his team to hold key positions, create choke points, and block escape routes. His instincts, sharpened by months of battle and training, allowed him to anticipate the enemy's moves before they made them. The confrontation grew intense. The enemy deployed advanced combat drones and energy barriers, trying to force Ethan's team back. Yet he remained calm, coordinating maneuvers that neutralized the threats one by one. He led a small squad through a narrow corridor, disarming traps and disabling enemy weapons with careful precision. Every action was deliberate, calculated, and effective. In the midst of the battle, a group of enemy soldiers broke through a rear entrance, heading directly toward Liara. Ethan reacted instantly, sprinting to intercept them. Using a combination of agile movement and quick strikes, he blocked their advance, shielding Liara with his own body. The enemy was skilled, but Ethan's courage and tactical acumen allowed him to protect her without unnecessary harm. Liara, observing his actions, realized the depth of his bravery. He was not only fighting to defeat the enemy, he was fighting to ensure that every life in their team remained safe. His human determination, combined with his growing understanding of alien combat, made him a force to be reckoned with. Finally, they reached the enemy commander's chamber. The figure was imposing, armed, and defiant. Ethan assessed the situation carefully. Instead of rushing into direct confrontation, he used the terrain, the team's positioning, and tactical deception to isolate the commander. With precise coordination, they forced the enemy leader to surrender without unnecessary violence. The outpost was secured. Ethan's team gathered intelligence, disabled remaining threats, and prepared for extraction. The enemy's plans were foiled, Their forces weakened, and the moon's surface was once again under the control of the Queen's forces. Back on the flagship, the Queen met them personally. Her expression was unreadable at first, but then she spoke, her voice carrying authority and respect. "You have done what few could accomplish. You have led with intelligence, bravery, and honor. Not only did you protect my daughter, but you secured our position and weakened the enemy's reach. Humans are often underestimated, but you have proven the strength and value of your kind." Ethan bowed his head respectfully. "Thank you, Your Majesty. I only did what was necessary to protect the princess and her people." The Queen studied him for a long moment. "Your actions go beyond simple protection. You have demonstrated leadership, strategy, and unwavering loyalty. You will remain under my service, not as a mere human soldier, but as a trusted advisor and protector. Your courage has earned my respect and the gratitude of all Virelia." Liara stepped forward, her eyes reflecting admiration and pride. "You saved us again," she said softly. "I cannot imagine what we would have done without you." Ethan shook his head, humbled. "We all did this together. The team, the soldiers, everyone played a part. I was just doing my duty." The Queen approached him, placing a hand lightly on his shoulder. "You have done more than duty requires. Today you are not only a protector of my daughter, but a symbol of hope for all our people. Your courage, wisdom, and loyalty will be remembered across generations." Ethan felt a deep sense of fulfillment. He had come to Virelia as a soldier, a visitor in a strange world. Now he was a trusted protector, a symbol of human courage, and someone who had made a real difference in the lives of countless beings. In the days following the mission, Ethan continued to serve alongside Liara and the Queen, helping to rebuild defenses, train soldiers, and maintain peace. The alien society had grown to respect humans, seeing them not as weak or inferior, but as capable, brave, and intelligent allies. Ethan and Liara shared many quiet moments together, reflecting on the battles they had faced and the bond they had forged. Words were not always necessary. Trust and shared experience had created a connection that transcended species and worlds. One evening, as the flagship sailed through the stars, Ethan stood with Liara on the observation deck. The vastness of the galaxy stretched before them, a reminder of the dangers they had faced and the challenges that still lay ahead. "You've changed everything," Liara said softly. "Not just for me, but for all of Virelia. You've shown them what humans are capable of." Ethan smiled faintly. "I just did what I had to do, but I've learned a lot from you and your people. Together we've made a difference." The Queen's voice echoed through the deck's communication system. "Ethan, you have earned a place of honor. You are not just a protector. You are a trusted advisor, a symbol of courage, and a part of our future. Virelia owes you a debt that cannot be measured." Ethan felt the weight of her words, a mixture of humility and pride filling him. He had faced impossible odds, battled fierce enemies, and protected a princess in a world not his own. And yet, he had survived, succeeded, and earned respect across species. Liara touched his arm gently. "You are far from home," she said. "But here with us you have a place where you are valued, respected, and trusted. You belong." Ethan looked at her, understanding the truth of her words. He was no longer just a visitor or a soldier. He was a protector, a trusted advisor, and a bridge between worlds. Humanity in this distant galaxy had made its mark, not through conquest or domination, but through courage, intelligence, and integrity. The flagship continued its journey, moving toward the stars with a renewed sense of purpose. Ethan stood beside Liara, the Queen's words echoing in his mind. He had faced the greatest dangers, protected the most important lives, and proven that even one human could make a difference among the stars. And in that moment, Ethan knew something profound. He had found a home, a purpose, and a legacy. He had shielded a princess, earned the Queen's trust, and shown the galaxy that humans were capable of greatness. The stars stretched endlessly before them, a reminder of infinite possibilities. Ethan smiled faintly, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead, confident in the knowledge that courage, loyalty, and wisdom could shape even the fate of worlds. He was a human, yes, but he was also a protector, a symbol of hope, and a part of something far greater than himself. And as long as he stood beside the princess and served the Queen, he would continue to make a difference in the galaxy, one act of courage at a time. The story of Ethan, the human who shielded the princess and earned the trust of an alien queen, Baika. The calm of the flagship did not last long. Reports arrived of a powerful alien faction moving quickly toward Virelia. Unlike previous attacks, this enemy did not seek small victories. They aimed to capture Princess Liara, hoping to use her as leverage against the Queen and her people. The intelligence suggested the attackers were skilled, ruthless, and organized, an enemy far more dangerous than the last. Ethan was summoned immediately. The council room buzzed with tension as the Queen's advisors and generals reviewed strategy. Holographic maps displayed the enemy's movement in real time. Ethan studied the maps, analyzing the patterns, the weaknesses in their formations, and the possible paths to intercept them. Though the aliens were advanced in technology, he noticed gaps that suggested overconfidence and rigid thinking, mistakes that a human perspective could exploit. Liara stood beside him, watching as he traced lines on the display with his finger. "What do you see?" she asked quietly. Ethan pointed to a narrow valley through which the enemy troops were advancing. "Their main forces will funnel through here. It's predictable. If we position our troops strategically, we can force them into a disadvantage. They rely on numbers, but here they will be confined. Their weapons won't be as effective in a narrow space." The Queen, who had been silent until now, observed him intently. "You plan to use geography against them," she said. "A human strategy, bold but risky." "It's calculated," Ethan replied. "We don't have to fight them head-on. We can control the battlefield." She nodded slowly, impressed by his insight. "Very well. You will lead a specialized unit to execute this plan. Your task is to protect Liara at all costs while weakening the enemy's advance." Ethan felt a surge of determination. This was more than protection, it was leadership. The lives of the princess and countless soldiers depended on his judgment. He accepted the responsibility without hesitation. Preparations began immediately. Ethan worked closely with the alien commanders, integrating his strategies with their technology. He suggested traps, ambush points, and diversion tactics. The alien soldiers, initially skeptical of human methods, now listened attentively, realizing that his approach offered an advantage they had not considered. Liara trained alongside him, not just as a princess but as a capable fighter. Her confidence grew with each session, and Ethan noticed how her presence on the battlefield inspired others. Together they became a symbol of hope for the troops, blending human ingenuity with alien skill. The day of the confrontation arrived. The enemy forces moved as predicted, entering the narrow valley. Ethan and his unit waited in concealed positions, energy weapons ready. The alien soldiers followed his orders with precision, forming defensive lines and setting traps that would slow the attackers. As the first wave entered the valley, chaos erupted. The enemy, expecting a simple defense, was caught off guard by the strategic ambush. Ethan's plan worked perfectly. The attackers were funneled into tight spaces where their numbers were less effective, and the aliens' superior positioning gave them a decisive advantage. Ethan moved swiftly, coordinating his unit with clear commands. He was everywhere at once, repositioning soldiers, guiding fire, and ensuring that Liara remained safe. The enemy tried to adapt, but his human unpredictability and the aliens' disciplined execution created a deadly combination. At one point, a group of enemy soldiers broke through a flank, charging directly toward the princess. Ethan reacted instantly. He sprinted forward, intercepting them with precise shots and tactical maneuvers. His pulse rifle flared, striking multiple targets in rapid succession. He blocked a strike aimed at Liara, rolling aside to shield her from the blast. The moment passed and she remained unharmed. The Queen observed from the command deck, her face revealing a mixture of concern and admiration. She had never seen a human act with such skill, courage, and strategic thinking. He was not just protecting her daughter, he was reshaping the battle itself. Hours passed in a blur of combat. Ethan's human intuition, combined with alien technology, turned the tide. The enemy's advance faltered, their forces breaking apart under precise attacks. He coordinated retreats, guided counterattacks, and ensured that no soldiers were left vulnerable. In the final moments of the battle, the enemy's commander, a massive armored figure, tried to escape with Liara. Ethan spotted the move instantly. Without hesitation, he leapt forward, intercepting the commander with a combination of speed, strength, and careful precision. He disarmed the alien leader, forcing surrender without causing unnecessary harm. Liara, witnessing the act, realized that Ethan's courage was matched by his intelligence. The battlefield fell silent. The enemy had been defeated, their strategy dismantled, and the princess remained safe. Ethan, exhausted and covered in sweat and dust, took a moment to catch his breath. Around him, the alien soldiers cheered, recognizing the human who had led them to victory. Liara approached him, her eyes shining with admiration. You saved everyone," she said. "I don't know how to thank you." Ethan shook his head. "I did what had to be done. That's all." The queen entered the battlefield shortly after, her presence commanding immediate respect. She surveyed the scene, noting the soldiers' positions and the defeated enemy. Then she turned her attention to Ethan. "You have exceeded every expectation," she said, her voice carrying across the valley. "Not only did you protect my daughter, but you led our forces to victory. You have proven that humans are not to be underestimated." Ethan felt a mix of pride and humility. "I am honored to serve, Your Majesty." "I only hope my actions were enough." "They were more than enough," the queen replied. "You have changed the way my people view humans. Your courage, strategy, and loyalty have saved lives and strengthened our position. You will remain with us not only as a protector but as a trusted advisor." Ethan looked at Liara, who gave him a small, approving nod. Her trust in him had never wavered, and he felt a deep sense of responsibility. He realized that his presence here was no longer temporary. He was now an integral part of their world. In the following days, the queen called a council to discuss future strategy. Ethan was seated among the highest-ranking advisors, a human among aliens contributing ideas and insight. His suggestions were practical, often combining human ingenuity with alien technology. The council began to recognize that his perspective was invaluable, offering solutions they had never considered. Liara stayed close to him during these meetings, often whispering observations or clarifying points. Their bond had grown stronger, built on trust, respect, and shared experiences on the battlefield. The queen noticed this connection but allowed it, understanding that trust between the princess and her protector was essential for the stability of her rule. One evening, as Ethan trained with a group of soldiers, a new report arrived. Scouts had detected unusual activity on a distant moon, suggesting another potential threat. Ethan analyzed the data quickly, identifying patterns that indicated a reconnaissance force preparing for a larger attack. He called a meeting with the queen and her generals. "If we don't act now," he said, "they will strike when we are least prepared. We can intercept them before they gather strength." The queen studied him, considering his words carefully. "You have shown great judgment," she said. "Prepare a team. You will lead this mission." Ethan nodded, understanding the gravity of the task. Once again he would face danger, but he knew that with careful planning and his human instincts they could succeed. The queen's trust in him, combined with Liara's support and the loyalty of the alien soldiers, gave him confidence. As the flagship prepared for departure, Ethan stood beside Liara on the observation deck. The stars stretched endlessly, a reminder of how vast the universe was and how much responsibility rested on their shoulders. "You've grown so much," Liara said quietly, "not just in skill but in the way you think. You see things differently, and it makes all the difference." Ethan looked at her, humbled. "I just try to do what's right, and having you trust me, it makes me want to do better." She smiled faintly. "You already do. Every day. You've proven that humans are capable of more than anyone imagined." The queen's voice echoed through the ship's communication system. "Prepare yourselves. The next mission will test your courage, wisdom, and loyalty. But I have confidence in each of you, especially in you, human." Ethan felt a surge of determination. He had faced impossible odds before, and he would face them again. Protecting the princess, serving the queen, and defending Varelia had become his purpose. He was not just a human soldier. He was a symbol of hope, resilience, and courage. As the ship moved toward the distant moon, Ethan took a deep breath. The challenges ahead would be greater, the enemies more dangerous, but he was ready. With the princess by his side, the queen's trust, and the loyalty of the alien soldiers, he knew they could face anything together. And in the quiet moments, as he gazed at the endless stars, Ethan realized something profound. He was far from home, yet he had found a place where he mattered, a role that gave his life purpose, and a bond that transcended worlds. The galaxy was vast, dangerous, and uncertain, but he would not falter. Not now, not ever. The sky over the planet Varelia was a strange shade of amber, streaked with violet clouds that swirled in patterns that made no sense to the human eye. Ethan had never seen anything like it. His boots crunched over the rough metallic soil as he and his unit advanced cautiously. The alien landscape seemed alive in subtle ways. The wind carried a faint hum and shadows moved where no object could cast them. He gripped his pulse rifle tightly, feeling the weight of it as a reminder that he was far from home. Ethan had been chosen for this mission not because he was the strongest soldier, but because he was one of the few humans trained to adapt under unpredictable conditions. The United Earth Council had sent him in a small detachment to assist an alien faction in defending their world from a hostile invader. He barely knew the species he was helping. The aliens were tall, lithe, and moved with a grace that made Ethan feel clumsy by comparison. Their faces were elegant, with large eyes that seemed to reflect more than just light. They reflected intelligence, emotion, and centuries of experience. The mission briefing had been short. "Protect the princess," their alien commander had said. "She must survive. The fate of Virelia depends on her." Ethan had asked why humans were involved, and the commander had only shrugged. It seemed the aliens respected human unpredictability, a quality they valued but did not fully understand. Now, as Ethan crouched behind a jagged rock formation with his team, he could see the battlefield ahead. Enemy drones hovered in the distance, scanning for life signs with glowing red sensors. Their weapons discharged pulses of energy that could incinerate a human in seconds. The alien warriors beside him communicated with subtle gestures and mental cues, moving with precision and speed. Ethan felt like an outsider, but he had been trained to fight and survive. That had to be enough. A sudden whistle of energy cut through the air. One of the drones fired, striking a nearby tree-like structure. The alien soldiers reacted instantly, returning fire with beams of concentrated energy. Ethan raised his rifle and took aim, pulling the trigger. The pulse rifle's blast struck the drone and it sputtered before crashing into the ground. He glanced toward the princess. Liara stood a short distance away, her expression calm but focused. Even under threat, she moved with poise, scanning the battlefield and giving silent orders with small gestures. Ethan had never seen a leader like her. She was young, maybe a few years older than him, yet she carried herself with the confidence of someone who had faced countless dangers. Then, everything changed. A group of enemy soldiers appeared from behind a ridge, moving with terrifying speed. They were larger than Ethan had expected, armored in black exosuits that glinted under the strange sky. Their weapons fired in rapid bursts, and the alien soldiers began to fall. "Cover the princess," Ethan shouted instinctively, even though the alien warriors barely reacted to his words. He moved forward, taking position between the advancing enemies and Liara. His pulse rifle flared with energy as he fired, but he quickly realized that his bullets barely slowed the armored soldiers. One of them charged directly at Liara. Time seemed to slow as Ethan dove, throwing himself in front of her. A searing blast hit him squarely in the chest. The impact threw him backward, crushing him against the jagged rocks. Pain exploded in every part of his body, but he barely registered it. All he could think about was protecting her. Liara's eyes widened, but she did not move. She seemed frozen, caught between fear and disbelief. Around them, chaos erupted. The alien soldiers scrambled, returning fire, but the enemy pressed forward relentlessly. Ethan struggled to rise, his strength fading. His body screamed for him to stop, to collapse, to surrender, but he forced himself to stay in front of Liara. A second blast came, and this time, Ethan absorbed it fully, the force driving him into the ground. His vision blurred, but he caught sight of the princess. She was unharmed, shielded by his body. He tried to speak, to tell her to move, but no words came. Only determination remained. He could not fail. Not her. Suddenly, a deafening roar shook the battlefield. One of the alien warriors, a massive figure with armor that shimmered like molten metal, charged the enemies with unmatched ferocity. Ethan saw an opening and took a deep breath, crawling toward the fallen cover. He fired his rifle, striking two of the enemy soldiers before another blast knocked him sideways again. Time and space seemed to warp in those moments of pure survival. Ethan felt weightless yet burdened with responsibility. Every instinct screamed that he might die here, but he did not care. The princess had to live. The humans he had left behind, the earth he had come from, none of it mattered in that moment. Only her life did. Finally, reinforcements arrived. Alien jetpacks screamed through the sky as additional soldiers joined the fray. The tide began to turn. Ethan, battered and barely conscious, dragged himself to a nearby outcropping and watched as the enemies were slowly pushed back. His pulse raced, every breath a struggle, yet he could not stop. Not until he knew Liara was safe. The last of the enemy drones exploded in a fiery ball. Silence fell over the battlefield, punctuated only by the groans of wounded soldiers. Ethan's vision swam and he sank to the ground, unable to move further. He had done it. The princess was alive. Liara ran to him, her face etched with concern. She knelt beside him, placing her hands on his shoulders. "You saved me," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. I don't understand why you risked yourself for me." Ethan coughed, blood staining his lips, but he managed a weak smile. "Someone had to," he said. "I couldn't let them." He paused, struggling to finish. Pain radiated through his chest. "I couldn't let anyone harm you." Her eyes filled with a mixture of gratitude and awe. "You're human," she said softly. "I never imagined one of your kind could do this." Ethan shook his head faintly, his vision dimming. "Humans, we fight for what's right, even if it's not our world." Liara nodded, tears welling in her eyes. She motioned to the alien medics, who quickly carried Ethan onto a hovering transport. The princess followed closely, refusing to leave his side. Even though he was unconscious, she whispered to him, "You will be okay. I promise. I won't let anything happen to you." On board the flagship, Ethan was tended to by alien healers. Their technology was advanced beyond anything he had seen, able to knit tissue and seal wounds in minutes. Despite their skill, they marveled at his resilience. Most humans would have died from the attack, yet Ethan's body absorbed damage in ways their species could not. Liara stayed near his bedside, observing quietly. She asked questions about his species, his home, his training. Ethan, still weak, managed to answer in brief, simple sentences. The aliens were fascinated by his resourcefulness and courage. Meanwhile, the queen watched from her chambers, her expression unreadable. She had heard reports of a human who had shielded her daughter from death. At first, she dismissed it as exaggeration. Humans were small, fragile, and untested in real combat against her people's enemies. Yet, as more reports arrived, she could no longer deny it. One human had risked everything to protect her daughter, and had survived. Her advisors murmured nervously. "Your Majesty, this human, he is not like the others," one said.
"He is strong, brave.
Maybe even exceptional." The queen remained silent, her gaze fixed on the tactical display of the battlefield. Ethan's actions had shifted the balance, not just in the fight, but in perception. The humans, previously considered weak allies, now carried a new respect in the eyes of the alien forces. Hours passed. Ethan's condition stabilized, though he remained unconscious for most of it. Liara never left his side, sitting quietly in a chair beside his bed. She held his hand gently when he stirred, speaking softly to calm him. In her mind, questions swirled. Who was this human? Why did he act with such courage? Could someone like him be trusted in the dangerous times ahead? Finally, Ethan opened his eyes. The first thing he saw was Liara's worried face, illuminated by the soft glow of alien lights. He tried to speak but found his throat dry. She leaned closer. "Take your time," she said. "You're safe now. I won't let anything happen to you." Ethan's lips moved weakly. I protected you. That's all." Her gaze softened. "It was more than that. You risked yourself. For me, that is not small. That is extraordinary." Though exhausted, Ethan managed a faint smile. "I just did what had to be done." Liara studied him, realizing that humans were not what she had expected. They were unpredictable, stubborn, and brave in ways her species often was not. A part of her admired that. A part of her feared it, but mostly she felt gratitude. And something deeper she did not yet understand. As the flagship moved away from the battlefield, the queen observed from her balcony. She had seen many soldiers in her time, yet this human, Ethan, was different. He had changed the course of events, protected her daughter when all others would have fallen back. The queen's mind raced with possibilities. Perhaps this human was not simply an ally. Perhaps he was something far more important. Below, Liara sat beside Ethan, who was slowly regaining his strength. She did not yet know what the future held, but she sensed one thing clearly. This human had earned a place beside her, and perhaps in ways that would shape her world in ways neither of them could yet imagine.